still don't know what's going on. Hell no.
All right. Hey, shalom, shalom. Before I get started, as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Basham, Yahweh Shabasham, Rachakodash. Hey, Yahweh is the true name of my heavenly Father, who the word ignorant know is God, Jehovah and Yahweh. Yahweh Shah is the name of his only begotten Son, our King, Lord and Savior, who the word ignorant know is Jesus Christ. Basham Rachakodash is in the name of the Holy Spirit. And that's the inspiration given to us to edify only those that have been given the ears to hear. Double honors to the men who taught me this truth, the apostles, bishops, and elders of great millstones. So like it. Peace and salutations to the whole elect, 144,000, and to the rest of the elect as well. Shalom to you believers that subscribe and listen to this truth wholehearted through the spirit of power, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And I pray that you be edified as I get into this topic today. As you see, is entitled Strategy Overcomes Strength. Babylon is underestimating Persia. And of course, Babylon the Great, if you don't know by now, you'll never know. It is indeed America. All right. Good old said US of A. All right. And according to biblical prophecy, it is uh, headed for thermonuclear destruction very soon, as you see war breaking out in the earth. Okay. Which ever since America's been so-called deemed a country, all right, there's been constant wars in the earth, all right, and now you see this war going on with the U.S., Israel, and Iran. And what I want to get into this morning is how uh, the great underestimation that America has for Iran is ultimately being shown. Okay, because them thinking taking out the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was going to be the knockout blow didn't go the way that they planned. All right. As a matter of fact, it went exactly the way that the Iranians, which is Persia, okay, had planned for it to go. Okay. Because what you got to understand about the Iranians is that they have a martyr complex. All right. And their government is embedded in their faith, in that Muslim faith. Okay. Unlike America, the supreme leader uh is uh very religious. Okay. And they hold strong to their belief. All right. Now I want to get this precept before I go any further. All right. Dealing with the title Strategy Overcomes Strength. So I want to get two precepts. Actually, I'll get this one first here in Ecclesiastes 9 and 11. You see it reads, I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. And this is what America boasts itself in, is having the most, mighty military in all the earth, that have the strongest military in all the world, right? But hear you say, the scriptures say the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. And when you go through the different biblical stories, especially on the behalf of Israel, the Lord never dealt with uh, the multitude of numbers when it came to winning a war. He always dealt with the smaller numbers. All right. Now, of course, Everything that's going on in the earth, which I've said this in the previous lessons concerning this war, the Lord is moving, uh, these nations to war on the behalf of Israel's deliverance. In the end, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to prove us victorious uh, in this race for world dominance, which, they have no clue. All right. They're clueless. All right. With all their different beliefs and their policies and, their pride, they are deceived. Okay. Because they have no idea that, hey, the Lord is actually about to set up the least expected. Okay. Uh, the lowest uh, nation in the earth right now being you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites. We are the ones that's going to be exalted in due time. All right. So I'll finish this before I go to the next precept. It says, again, I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy. And those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place at the right time. All right. And when you follow uh, this war, especially not according to the Western media, right? When you follow this war, you'll see that the Iranians' strategy is overcoming the strength of Babylon the Great. Okay, and what is strategy? Basically, being in the right place at the right time, making the right moves at the right time, man. Okay, so I want to go here. I want to go here to the book of I believe this is First Samuel. Let me make sure. And then I got some videos I want to play. Some of the news clips I've been uh watching, and some of the sources I've been following, so y'all can see, which I know plenty of brothers are tuned in, all right now, because it's exciting times, it's very exciting times uh to uh be in the know, right? To be a prophet of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai and being in the know concerning his judgment that he's working in the earth. So this is the book of First Samuel chapter 2. All right. And I'm in the NLT. I might leave it in the NLT. Let's see. Yep. Come. Yeah, I'll read it in the NLT, right? Uh so this is First Samuel starting at chapter 2, verse 6. It says, the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai gives both death and life. He brings some down to the grave, but raises others up. The Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai makes some poor and others rich. He brings some down and lifts others up. All right. And we in the time of America going down. All right. As we are coming into the 250th year of its so-called independence. Uh, this year, July 4th, will be their 250-year anniversary. And when you go into if you Google the duration of an empire, the average duration of an empire, it'll tell you 250 years. I'm not going to do it. You can do it yourself. All right. But I'm going to continue on. All right. With the point, which is, hey, America is being brought down. All right. The spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is working in the earth to destroy this whore. It says the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai makes some poor and others rich. He brings some down and lifts others up. He lifts the poor from the dust and the needy from the garbage dump. He sets them among princes, placing them in seats of honor. And ultimately, who is going to be placed in that seat of honor? The elect of the nation of Israel. And to follow further along, the entire nation will be honored and glorified. But first, it starts with the elect, the first fruits. Okay, in the kingdom, those uh, that are not turning back and serving Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai and coming back to the obedience of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, they will be made right through the loins of the elect. So the entire nation, as it says in the book of what's that, Romans 11, all right, all Israel will be saved, but in this time only the elect is going to get that seat of honor, okay, which will be the highest seat in all the earth when it's restored to righteousness, the first fruits of Israel. So let me continue. It says, "For all the earth is the Lord's, and He has set the world in order." All right, and that's what you see going on now. All right, the Lord is setting the world in order through the means of these wars. Why? Because He is a man of war. All right, and uh, the order is ultimately going to end. The order of this world is ultimately going to end, and the new order will be Yasharallah. Okay, Israel, the sons of God, will be ruling in the earth, and the Lord, being a man of war, is the ultimate war strategist. Okay, so He's working on the minds of these men ultimately to perform His will. You know, so I'm gonna go back here, uh, real quick. All right, Shalom, Yahweh Shema Shabbat Shem Kakudash Barakatham to you brothers on the comment board. Uh, hey, Shalom and Yashamath, you know, the priest from Mississippi, Shalom. Uh, Con. Yeah, I want to get that too. As a matter of fact, uh, I'm gonna add something to it a little later in the lesson. Uh, this is really one of my favorite chapters, Jeremiah 50, right? So let's look at some of these videos real quick, right? So this was a clip I was looking at last night, yesterday evening, and let's just check out what this guy right here is saying. I believe he's a Moabite, all right, but he's speaking on, as you see the title, why Iran's strategy matrix terrifies the U.S. Mm. There we go. You know, and I didn't want to interrupt any of it, so let's let the whole thing play. But just go to show you, the pride of the American so-called American empire. You know, uh, they're going to force the issue because they feel like their strength alone is enough to just run over these little Iranians. That's that complex that they have. All right, which the Moabite right here breaking it down was telling you like they're inflexible. So you going over there into that region and just dropping firepower blindly, you really ain't doing no damage, which it was already laid out upon the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, you know, for no negotiations. All right. Uh, there was strategic strikes on all U.S. bases, assets, which bombs to use, which missiles to use on which targets at what time. That's strategy. All right. Closing the Strait of Hormuz, that's strategy. All right. So you got to understand what these people over here in Iran are dealing with. Well, what America is dealing with these people over here in Iran is uh, a martyr complex. So let me pull up that information concerning the martyr complex. They, they look at it, dying in war as an honor. They ready to die for their country. So, all right, here's the information right here. Slovakia, close that. Right. So right here it says Iranians have martyr complex, right? Which I'm gonna read it off of my phone first because That's where I initially got the information. And sometimes when you get the information from uh your phone or a different device, it'll give you, you know, uh different information, which is pretty much the same, but I just want to read it off my phone here, right? So I Googled this same thing you see on the screen. Iranians have a martyr complex. It says the concept of martyr complex in Iran refers to a deeply rooted cultural and Shiite religious tradition that glorifies self sacrifice, heavily utilized as a political ideology by the regime, right? Which that's what uh, Ayatollah Khamenei was already prepared for because that's deeply rooted in their beliefs in that Muslim Shiite faith, right? And I was watching that guy Steve Bannon, which the Apostle Rumlob uh, yesterday, I believe, was letting brothers know was a good source to follow concerning the war, and he pretty much broke down uh, the fact that upon Ayatollah Khamenei's death, he let it be known, like for the Iranian leaders that would succeed him, not to have any negotiations with the U.S. and every strike, every single strike that they've executed on every single target was laid out, was planned. So they've been planning for this. All right. So you dealing with somebody who has a very meticulous strategy. Uh, they have, which I'll get ready to load up this other video after I read this. They have way more missiles than the U.S. and Israel can defend, and they using those missiles to attack all the defenses that the IDF and the U.S. have in those regions. So now, just like the Moabite was talking about uh, a man going to war with a machine gun against another man with no weaponry in a dark forest, this is what Iran is doing. They bringing them into that dark forest. And I also had just heard reports from one of the brothers in Nashville. He said the article saying that Trump is about to force the issue and send a Navy escort through the Strait of Hormuz, all right, to transport goods through the Strait of Hormuz, right? So you playing with fire. You going right into that dark forest, you know. So again, uh, strategy is something that these Iranians have been using against bigger militaries and bigger threats for a long time. And again, it's rooted in them ultimately ready to uh, be martyrs to protect uh, their territory and what they believe. So it says martyrdom is deeply rooted cultural, religious, and political concept in Iran, heavily influenced by Shia traditions like the story of Imam Hussein, which valorize sacrifice and defiance, while the state utilizes this cult of martyrdom to foster loyalty and manage dissent. Citizens often reclaim these narratives to express grief and protest against the regime. Uh, it says culture and religious roots. The narrative of Imam Hussein's martyrdom at Karbala is central to Iranian Shiism, providing a template for resisting oppression and valuing sacrificial death. All right. So this is what these people are all about. You going over there, and then the death of Ayatollah Khamenei didn't do anything except unite those people over there and make them even stronger. All right. And not just in Iran, but that region in general. Okay. All of those those Arabic and Elamite nations over there, or they coming together against uh, the foreign threat of Babylon. It says political mobilization. It says since the 1979 revolution and the Iran-Iraq war, the state has institutionalized a martyrdom culture that frames death not as defeat, but as a spiritual transcendence. All right. So, in other words, in Ayatollah Khamenei's belief, in his mind, he's still winning. Even after he dead, like his mind was, we still going to win, because he knew that his death would unite the people. And not only that, okay, so now you got the domestic threat of these Iranians, or not even just Iranians, because you don't have to be Iranian to believe what they believe. Just like you just had this guy reported yesterday, which I think they ended up catching him before he could do anything, but he pretty much was standing on the behalf of Iran, and ready to pretty much he was ready to go against America, for lack of better explaining. But he had this belief. He shared this belief, all right, with these Muslim Shiites. Okay, so you got sleeper cells over here, and the American major cities have been put on notice. All right. So let's look at this other video. Let's look at this other video. And
According to the Iranian forces, including the IRGC, are hammering the US military all across the Middle East, despite heavy bombardment at home. According to the New York Times, citing satellite imagery and verified videos, critical military communication infrastructure worth billions are now reduced to ashes in at least 5 Middle Eastern countries. Iranian missiles and drones have shredded through air defenses, danced past interceptors, and ignited fires near military hubs, oil ports, and logistical centers. Radar systems used to track incoming ballistic missiles, satellite dishes, and radomes that protect sensitive equipment have been destroyed. As per NYT, US military communication infrastructure is highly classified, making it difficult to determine which exact systems may have been affected, but Iran had its eyes locked. Its targeted locations indicate that Iran was aiming to disrupt the US military's ability to communicate and coordinate. The Iranian strikes potentially affected US communication systems in Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Let us begin by understanding the damage Iran has caused to US military equipment in Bahrain. According to NYT, on February 28th, Iran's one-way attack drone struck a radome in the US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Manama, Bahrain. The base is the United States' primary hub for coordinating naval operations in the Middle East. Satellite imagery taken of the headquarters the following day showed that at least one additional radome was destroyed. The two demolished structures were ANGSC-52B SATCOM terminals, which play a key role in facilitating high-capacity and near real-time communication for the US military. Amid the ongoing conflict, Iran struck Al Udeid airbase in Qatar on March 1st, destroying a tent surrounded by satellite dishes. Some of the dishes are also most likely damaged. Al Udeid is the US military's largest base in the Middle East. Iran hit a radome the American military used for communications with a ballistic missile at the same base during the 12-day Iran-Israel war last June. In Kuwait, at least 3 radomes had been damaged or destroyed at Camp Arifjan. 50 miles northeast, at the Ali al-Salem airbase, at least 6 buildings or structures adjacent to satellite communication infrastructure were damaged or destroyed, as per NYT citing a satellite imagery. The same area of the base was hit again, with 2 additional buildings near the satellite equipment heavily damaged. On night of February 28th, the IRGC announced that the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia had been targeted with missiles and drones. The following morning, satellite imagery captured a mile-long smoke plume rising from a building connected to the site. On March 3rd, another satellite image captured the structure was largely destroyed. The building that was hit is close to a radome and sits within a fenced-off area roughly 6 miles east of the main base. Just outside Al Ruwais in the UAE, several structures were damaged in an Iranian strike. At Al Dhafra Air Base, satellite imagery showed tightly clustered buildings and tents within a compound about the size of a football field, heavily damaged. The base was struck again in the same general area, according to satellite imagery captured on March 2nd, as per the New York Times. From Bahrain to Qatar, Kuwait to Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, the pattern is unmistakable. These were not random strikes, they were calculated hits on the digital nervous system of the US military presence in the Middle East. The invisible architecture that allows modern warfare to function is now scarred, damaged, or destroyed. Iran is not just aiming at bases, but at the very command and control backbone that links them together.
In a brazen escalation, Iran reportedly carried out a drone strike on America's Central Intelligence Agency's CIA station in Saudi Arabia. A source familiar with the matter told Reuters that the CIA facility inside the US Embassy in Riyadh was hit by a suspected Iranian drone. The source further told Reuters that there was no indication the station was the target. The embassy, located in the Saudi capital of Riyadh, is among the US sites hit so far in the conflict. Saudi Arabia's defense ministry said the embassy was hit by 2 drones, which resulted in a limited fire and some material damage. A State Department memo said the strike collapsed part of the roof of the embassy and that embassy personnel should continue to shelter in place, the Washington Post reported. The memo did not mention if any CIA personnel were wounded and declined to comment on the situation. Subsequently, Washington's mission in the kingdom warned Americans to avoid the embassy until further notice due to an attack on the facility. On March 3, the U.S. mission cancelled routine and emergency U.S. citizen services appointments, saying in a security alert that there is a threat of imminent missile and UAV attacks over Dhahran. Do not come to the U.S. consulate. The attack on the CIA facility may be significant to an embattled Iranian regime that has long viewed the American spy agency as its ultimate foe. Meanwhile, following the intensified Iranian attack, the Saudi cabinet said in a statement they will take all necessary measures to defend its security and protect its citizens and residents. This comes as Iranian missiles and drones target key oil and other facilities in Riyadh and other parts of the kingdom. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Energy said 2 Iranian drones were intercepted near the Ras Tanura oil refinery, with debris causing minor damage, according to the state-run Saudi press agency. This comes after Iran allegedly attacked Saudi oil giant Saudi Aramco. Iran's Tasnim news agency quoted a military source as saying the attack on Aramco was an Israeli false flag operation, as Israel's goal is to distract the minds of regional countries from its crimes in attacking civilian sites in Iran. The drone attack came after the US and Israel launched an attack on February 28th. The waves of strikes killed Iran's supreme leader Khamenei and scores of its senior military and political command, civilians including school kids, prompting fierce retaliation by the Islamic Republic. The Iranian forces and IRGC have been ferociously targeting US and Israeli targets in the region, as well as those of Gulf partners. According to the Washington Post, citing the Central Command, Iran has attacked over 1,250 targets since the war began. Iranian missile and attack drones have struck Kuwait, Qatar, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and other locations, including civilian targets.
And this is what the Western media over here in America is not going to let get out. You know, they ain't gonna let you know that they losing this war, you know. And as you saw this video show you, all of these targets that the Iranians have been hitting, this is all precise. You know, this ain't just something that they randomly doing. You know, they making every missile count. You know, they know some of them gonna get intercepted. You know, but what they're doing is weakening uh America's defense system. Okay, so uh I googled this. Hey, yeah, the water for letting me know too, brother, that the sound was out. I don't know what happened, but the water it came back in. You know, the water for giving me that heads up. You know, call all y'all, but I was shot that the audio came back, right? So yeah, I had Googled you know, pretty much the title of this lesson, strategy overcomes strength. And this is what it says, right? So this is from the AI overview. It says strategy overcomes strength by using intelligence, planning, and agility to outmaneuver brute force, winning battles without direct, costly conflict. You know, so not only are they winning the battle thus far, but they not using a lot of money to do so, right? And they taking out major costly uh, targets from America, you know, hitting different, you know, embassies, uh, hitting different bases, uh, defense systems, you know. This is what the Lord really is doing to America through Iran. All right, he's weakening them. Okay, it says it maximizes efficiency, minimizes failure, and uses perception like appearing weak when strong. All right, and this will cause you to underestimate your opponent. All right, because you'll go based off the appearance. Okay, and the Lord, matter of fact, let me get this precept real quick on that note. Uh, Matter of fact, I ain't gonna pull it up. I'm gonna just go to it and read it because I want to finish reading some more of this. So, uh, let's see. It's in the KJV. Let me take it off the NLT. As a matter of fact, it's in Samuel as well. Yep, this is First Samuel 16:7. It says, "But the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai said unto Samuel, Look not on his countenance or on the height or his statue, because I have refused him." Right? For the Lord Yahweh seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. You know, which this is what he was telling the prophet Samuel when he was going to choose another king to succeed Saul, right? And because Saul, you know, he was of great stature, he was you know, a tall, muscular, you know, great man. You know, Samuel was looking to find a successor of that same stature, but the Lord chose David, a shepherd boy. All right, but David's heart was that of a giant. Okay, and that's what the Lord looks at. He looks at the heart. All right, because mind gonna overcome muscle every time. Right. So back to the AI overview. It says key principles of this strategy: outthink, don't outfight. Okay, it says the art of war teaches that intelligence, preparation, and anticipation of an opponent's moves are more critical than raw power. It says perception management, appearing weak when strong can disarm opponents while appearing strong when weak can deter attacks. And this is exactly what's going on in this war right now, man. And we seeing it play out in real time. All right. I want to get this precept now in Jeremiah 50, right? Which I'll start here from the precept Yashama Shalom Makia Yabasham Shabrakatah, Jeremiah 50 and 23. It reads, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? You know, because like I was saying earlier in the lesson, you know, the Lord is a man of war. You know, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, they're the ultimate war strategies. They created a war, you know. So, you know, you definitely not gonna outwar them, you know. So for the sake of prophecy, Iran is gonna have the ups right now. Okay. They're gonna have the ups right now. And of course, you know, they got Russia and China in their back pocket, which reports also from uh, the source Steve Bannon, right? He was saying that China brought in some weaponry uh, pretty much on the whim of they're coming to help evacuate citizens, but the whole time it was just a diversion so that they can bring in more uh, weaponry to aid Iran. Okay. So I want to go continue on with this Jeremiah 50. We're going to pick up at Jeremiah 50 and 24. Let me pull it up. So this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, verse 24. It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. You know, and them going over there, which you know, the least of the flock, you know, them Israelis, the small hats, them 48ers over there, drew them into it, right? They were ultimately the snare, okay? But, you know, when they got over there, you know, thinking that they was just going to take out Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader, and it was going to be over with, uh, it was just the opposite, you know. Now, you know, the way things are going, they really don't got a lot of options, really, you know, so far as defending uh, their assets over there. I mean, the next thing they can really attempt to do is call for a ceasefire, which the both sides got to agree to that ceasefire, you know. And if Iran, you know, see that weakness, because like right now, the reports I've been hearing is that the Iranians want the world to feel their pain, and they looking to pretty much cause a global economic turmoil. All right, so we'll see like how it's gonna play out. But you know, us uh, in this faith, you know, being hastening the day and being ready to get the hell up out of here. We hoping that this thing is drawn out so that the economy can crash. The war that's going on right now between Iran, Israel, and America, if it's drawn out, it will crash the economy, which is what these Iranians are looking to do. Okay. Uh, that's why Khamenei told them, you know, no negotiations. And you see, they didn't waste no time closing down the Strait of Hormuz, right? Which is a quarter of the world's oil supply. All right. comes out of the Strait of Hormuz. But anyway, let me continue. It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Habashai. And I always like to read this verse 25 in the AMP. So that's where I'm gonna go to. This is Jeremiah 15:25, picking back up in the Amplified version. It says, the Lord Yahweh Bashim Habashai has opened his armory, and he has brought out the nations who unknowingly, right, are the weapons of his indignation. Wrath, for it is a work of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Habashai, power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. So these nations think they are fulfilling their own agendas and achieving their own so-called religious aspirations or whatnot, and they really are only achieving the pleasure and the will of Yahweh Bashim Habashai. Okay, just like it says here in the book of Daniel, which I'll get it in the AMP as well. Daniel 4 and 35. It says, all the inhabitants of the earth are regarded as nothing, but he does according to his will in the host of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and no one can hold back his hand or say to him, what have you done? So this is clearly the hand of Yahweh Bashim Habashai working in the earth, fulfilling prophecy. All right, so I'm gonna play this last video. Okay. Which this guy here, as you see, thumbnail propaganda and co, he got some pretty interesting information, but I'm gonna speed it up, of course, for time's sake, which is pretty much already sped up. And he's gonna admit, that he's biased, towards in favor of Iran, winning the war against the Zionists and winning this war, which, hey, we are biased towards them winning for the fact that we know them winning is going to lead to us winning. In the end, we win. So America is going to lose this battle, not for Iran to be exalted in the end, but for Israel to be exalted in the end. As a matter of fact, let me you know what? I'll get that in the end. After this video is over with, I'll get that. Israel's gonna be exalted in the end, man. All right, so let me make sure it's up on the screen. All right, this is the video right here I was talking about, right? And in the thumbnail, it says panic at the White House, okay? Because they really are. They trying to hide it, but it's clear that they agitated, they dismayed, and they in fear, because everything that's going on over there is not going according to how they plan, and they're gonna get anxious and do something stupid. And that's exactly what we want. But here we go.
This is video update number 5 for the Iran war. Before I dive in, I need you to remember what this war comes down to. What runs out first, US-Israeli interceptors or Iran's ability to launch missiles? Well, as we enter the 4th day of the war, we can now begin to see which direction this war is heading in. I think Iran has the edge. Now, I know what you're thinking. Of course you do, you brown mother. You're biased. Look, it's no secret that I'm totally rooting for Iran to defeat the Zionists. No secret there. However, I do my best to keep this as objective as possible because I am interested in understanding reality, not being confused by delusions. Now, I will preface my arguments by saying that I am totally open to the idea that I am wrong. This is just my opinion. However, it is a reasonable speculation. Now, to make my case, I need to reveal to you how many times Trump's position has changed since Friday night. When the war first began, Trump suggested to an Axios reporter that the military campaign might not take long, quote, 2 or 3 days. On Sunday, however, he told the Daily Mail, it's always been a 4-week process. We figured it would be 4 weeks or so. And on Monday, Trump reiterated the timeline of 4 to 5 weeks, but he said it could go longer. Now he's saying ground troops if necessary, and whatever the time is, it's okay, whatever it takes. As you can see, Trump is clearly confused. What started out as a quick knockout blow has swiftly changed into a month-long war plan with the potential for troops on the ground. Quote, the hours, days, and perhaps weeks ahead will challenge you. There will be noise and confusion. It sounds like the military brass doesn't know what the plan is, how long it will last, or why they're even there. And today, Marco Rubio and several other elected officials gave a panicked press conference before the media where they tried to blame Israel for dragging them into this war.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed.
If Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets.
Okay, now this is very telling. I think it reveals a very simple truth. Behind closed doors, the administration is panicking. And this is consistent with what the media has leaked about Trump's war room as well. From the Washington Post, the mood inside the Pentagon is intense and paranoid. Pentagon leaders worry the U.S. will expend its air defense stockpiles and the conflict will spiral out of control. They foolishly believed that they could kill the Ayatollah and produce a power struggle within the IRGC. They thought they could move the population against the government. They thought they could scare the army into giving up. However, none of those things have happened. Instead, Iran has rained down missiles and drones all over the region at a rate no one was expecting. And now they have announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which threatens to send oil prices surging. Iran is officially fighting a war of revenge and survival. Quote, the Iranian armed forces have become fully determined to advance into a full-scale war. And in this video here, you can see Iranians chanting, neither compromise nor surrender. We want vengeance against America. The U.S. severely underestimated the loyalty of the people and IRGC officials to the revolution and the government. They underestimated the strength and the resolve of Iranian institutions, which they thought would completely collapse in the face of an impending U.S. strike. And of course, most crucially, they underestimated the accuracy of Iran's missiles. It is abundantly clear that the Chinese navigation satellite system that Iran switched over to has encrypted Iran's missile guidance, which protects it from electronic warfare and therefore has made it more accurate. And it seems as though the Chinese has shared intelligence with Iran because they have been able to carry out precision strikes on hotels containing the CIA and Mossad. From Jeremy Scahill, some buildings and hotels hit in the Gulf were housing Israeli or U.S. personnel or intelligence operations. That Iran pinpointed the locations has really caught the Americans and Israelis off guard. And U.S. bases have taken huge hits, leading to the destruction of munition warehouses and, most importantly, sophisticated radar systems. Quote, another U.S. base sacrificed by Trump for Israel. If I believed in maintaining U.S. empire, I would be furious. The destruction of these radar systems means they can no longer enjoy early warnings about incoming Iranian missiles. This means they can only detect Iran's missiles at the last second, which increases the difficulty of intercepting them. And Iran's missiles have proven their sophistication and worth. They are maneuvering through the sky, evading interceptors. Yesterday, I showed you a clip of nearly a dozen Israeli interceptors missing an incoming Iranian missile and 3 PAC-2 missiles failing to catch an incoming rocket. This high rate of missile interception failures has exhausted already critically low supplies. And today, the media revealed that Qatar stockpiles could potentially only last 4 more days. Now, if you recall, this is exactly what war analyst Patricia Marins warned us of yesterday. Another piece of evidence that the U.S. is worried about air defense stockpiles and missile systems is the fact that they are currently discussing the quick transfer of more PAC-3 batteries and another THAAD system from Korea. Quote, the United States is considering the relocation of air defense systems and other military assets from South Korea to the Middle East amid the ongoing conflict with Iran, according to Korean language newspaper The Chosun Daily. These include MIM-104 Patriot surface-to-air missiles and terminal high-altitude area defense systems, otherwise known as THAAD, as well as surveillance and reconnaissance assets like the MQ-9 Reaper, permanently stationed at Kunsan Air Base with U.S. Forces Korea. Sources also believe that the THAAD battery in Songju, North Gyeongsang Province, and its interceptor missiles could be deployed to the Middle East. So they are literally disarming their allies to try and protect Israel in the region. Now, the U.S. claims they have destroyed half of Iran's missile launchers and that Iran is now the one with low missile supplies. Now, honestly, that could be true. While Iran continued to pummel bases all over the region and Israel, it seems as though their missile waves were 50% lower than it was yesterday. However, that's consistent with what happened during the 12-day war last summer. Iran blitzed the air defense systems to exhaust interceptor supplies and then pivoted to a slow, protracted war of attrition. So Iran was always going to slow down their missile waves. So the question is, are they slowing down because they have satisfied their objective of exhausting interceptors and now want to drag this out for a long war of attrition that could go on for several months? Or are they slowing down because the U.S. has destroyed half of their launchers? Well, I don't know the answer to that question. However, I think we can potentially answer this question with a a series of questions. If Iran was truly running out, and if the US was doing just fine, would the Americans have evacuated Dubai yesterday? Would they have moved many of their assets to Cyprus, the Mediterranean island off the coast of Israel, in order to be outside of the reach of Iranian missiles?
داریم وقتی ما پایگاه‌های آمریکایی‌ها رو در منطقه زدیم، در کویت، در دبی، در قطر، در عراق، در اقصا نقاط دیگر در عربستان، اینها هواپیماهاشون رو تقریبا تعداد کثیری شاید 70-80% رو بردن به سمت قبرس و از اونجا تو 3 پایگاهی که تو جزایر دارن، از اونجا سازماندهی میکنن، آماده میکنن و به ما حمله میکنن. خب ما با دلیل محکم استدلال قوی، چون قبرس این میدان رو به دشمن داده، به دشمن غدار ما داده، ما هم اونجا رو زدیم و خواهیم زد و مثل همین منطقه که برخی از کشورها پایگاه اونها داده بودن، پایگاهشون زدیم، اونها رو دچار این خواهیم کرد که از اونجا فرار کنن به نقطه دیگری برن.
Would Marco Rubio and company be doing press conferences where they already try to deflect blame for this war on Netanyahu? Would Netanyahu be getting on Fox News to insist that everything is okay and that it wasn't really his fault that America got sucked into this war?
You know, there are people that say, well, the prime minister of Israel dragged Donald Trump into it. And as somebody that's been friends with him over 30 years, nobody drags Donald Trump into anything, number one, but I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, you're right. I mean, that's ridiculous. Donald Trump is the strongest leader in the world.
Would Western media be leaking that Trump is panicking behind closed doors over low missile stockpiles? Would America be even thinking about removing South Korea's only defense from a North Korean nuclear missile to shore up their defenses in the Middle East? And finally, would the Pentagon have leaked their concerns about this war a week before it happened because of the fact that they knew missile interceptors were already low and would produce an issue during this war? So I can't tell you with 100% confidence that Iran is currently winning, but I think I can reasonably speculate that the war is definitely not going to Western plans. And now Trump is trying to lobby the Kurds to fight Iran for them. 3 days ago, the United States applied extensive pressure on the KDP in Erbil and the PUK in Suleimania to unify their Peshmerga forces in Iraq. President Trump spoke to the leaders of Iraq's 2 main Kurdish factions, Masoud Barzani and Bafil Talabani, in ways the Kurds could assist against Iran. Now, it's unclear if the Kurds will actually do it, as they have already been betrayed half a dozen times by foreign powers over the last few decades, urging them to fight as a proxy in exchange for the dangling carrot of independence. Regardless, it shows a level of desperation for this war against Iran. And it would seem that the Zionists are clearly panicking as well. Iran survived. They fought back. The war has tipped in their favor because Iran can produce missiles and drones faster than America can produce munitions for their ships and their planes to bomb Iran with, and interceptors for their air defenses. Just listen to Marco Rubio describe the problem.
They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have.
And with their bases bombed in the region, the U.S. cannot safely use the region for logistics. Kuwait is not safe. Bahrain is not safe. Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel are not safe. Cyprus is barely safe. And now the body bags are mounting. American soldiers are wondering why the hell they are dying in hotels for a war that Rubio says Israel dragged them into. And Americans at home are asking the same question. In a viral tweet with over 100,000 likes, Nick Fuentes said, "This is a war of aggression for Israel. Americans will die in terrorist attacks and in missile strikes so that Israel can expand its borders in every direction. Trump, Vance, and Rubio sold us out." And Sagar from Breaking Point said, 3 days ago, it was an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory to say Israel was dragging the U.S. into war with Iran. Today, the Secretary of State said Israel was going to strike no matter what and that the U.S. had to join the war. And then you have this clip here from an American veteran that perfectly encapsulates how Americans feel about Israel right now.
You either support America and American troops, or you support Iran and the Ayatollah. There is a third support option. I support Iran dropping every single rocket in their arsenal right in the middle of Israel, wiping that entire country off the map. That's what I support. Of the two, I would rather see Iran wipe out Israel and watch how fast the war ends. For those of you with dual citizenship in this country, with the United States and Israel, it's time to pack your bags, get the fuck out of our country, and go die for the country that you actually show allegiance to.
10 years ago, this would have been impossible to imagine. And now the Democrats are seizing on this opportunity to humiliate Trump in the lead up to the midterm elections, which is just a few months away. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a potential candidate for the next presidential election, condemned Trump's war in Iran.
To reconcile why our bombs were used or Israeli bombs were used to kill children, young girls at a school, and what the imminent threat was. It hasn't been described.
And other Democrats chimed in as well.
There was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. If we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory. We have seen the goals for this operation change now, I believe, 4 or 5 times.
So now it should be clear why the Washington Post said that Trump was nervous. His administration is already trying to blame Israel for this mistake. The Zionists clearly understand that this war is not only unpopular, but it's already turning into a failed campaign. So they hope to drag the Gulf countries into the war to help tip the scales back into their favor. In a viral clip, Tucker Carlson exposed that Mossad agents were arrested in Saudi Arabia after they tried to detonate explosives within the country so that it could be blamed on Iran, dragging them into the war.
They wanted to diminish the Gulf. And in 2 days they have. We have military bases in these countries. These are some of our closest allies. All of them are closer allies than Israel by far. They're our friends, but they've been really hurt. It really, really hurts these countries. And Israel wanted to hurt these countries. That's the point. Wanted to hurt these countries. Wanted to sow chaos and disorder because they are rivals of Israel. So it's probably hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. It doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis committing bombings in 2 Gulf countries which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side? No. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait.
As Ian Carroll put it, this is the Israeli playbook, and it goes all the way back to 9/11. This is insane. Americans now see through every single one of Israel's dirty tricks, and they no longer want any part of Zionism, Israel, or their wars. All of this combined tells you that Iran has the edge, and the Zionists are panicking. So again, in my opinion, Iran is currently winning. However, this isn't over yet. It's just the beginning. I have explained this a million different times in a million different ways in a million different videos. The Zionist Jews see this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, potentially the last one they will ever have to produce greater Israel and secure their biblical dream of Jewish supremacy. Trump is the last American president that can give them carte blanche, whatever they want in the Middle East. The American people are clearly sick and tired of Zionism and Israel. Politicians from both the left and the right are already tapping into populist messaging criticizing Israel, and the polls in America clearly reflect this. Now, I need you to listen carefully. This is one of the most important warnings I can ever communicate to you. The Zionists know that it is now or never for their greater Israel projects. They are paranoid, delusional, unhinged, and violent. They have done and will do literally anything to achieve their vision of greater Israel. They are willing to commit genocide, false flag terror attacks, and even destroy the entire world in a nuclear holocaust, as outlined in their Samson option, in order to survive.
And this is what's coming, but they not gonna survive. You know, the world will be drawn into nuclear war, right? World War III is on the rise to become nuclear. You know, World War III is engaged and on the rise to become nuclear, man. Okay. And when you go into this Samson option, which I'm not gonna get into it, all right, it's pretty much their last act of desperation, which is pretty much to use nuclear power to solidify dominance in the earth, you know, which is not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. All of these plans that they have to obtain dominance, all these nations, is going to fail. And in the end, Israel will be the victors, the true Israel, meaning you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. Okay. So let's get this precept. Going back to 1 Samuel. Back to 1 Samuel. Yep. So this is 1 Samuel 2 and verse 8. It says, he raised up the poor out of the dust and lifted up the beggar from the dunghill to set them among princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Hawashai's, and he had set the world upon them. Verse 9, he will keep the feet of his saints. Who are the saints? The Israelites. And the wicked shall be silent in darkness, right? So all these nations, all right, prominently Esau, Edom, will be silent in darkness, okay? They will not be on no councils governing the world. They will not be in any positions of power ruling in the earth ever again. When it's all said and done, when the smoke clears, right, it's only going to be Israel. Okay, and here's the point, all right, bringing this lesson home. For by strength shall no man prevail, okay? So it's not about strength. It's not about raw power, okay? It's all about strategy. And Yahweh Bashim Hawashai, they have the strategy laid out to go exactly according to their will. And their will is to set up and anoint and exalt Israel. Okay. Verse 10, it says, the adversaries of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Hawashai shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. Right? Because Yahweh, he's going to come in the midst of World War III. See, this is the piece of the war that they have not accounted for. All right. This is Yahweh is going to be the ultimate underestimation. All right. It says, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king. Who is his king? David. All right. The house of David is going to be raised back up, okay, and exalted to world dominion. Okay. The house of David will be the new superpowers in the earth. All right. It says, and he shall give strength unto his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Okay. All right. So I'll end it there, and I pray that you were edified again, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ba'chakwadash, A Kwam Yasarala, Abab Abal, Rise Israel, destroy confusion, Shalom. Peace to the elect.